Welcome everyone. Welcome to the USBE informational webinar about the implementation to the Utah State Student Intervention Early Warnings Program, or in short, Early Warning System. My name is Kung Win. I am a prevention specialist and has been assigned to coordinate with the esteemed team from USBE as well as Panorama Education as a state-approved contractor to help lead this effort. Here is today agenda and along with a few housekeeping item. Today the presentation is being recorded and will be posted on USBE Early Warning System webpage. The slide and recording will also be shared with attendees shortly after today's session. Today's presentation is broken down to 4 parts. First is a brief welcome and introductions here. Second, USB presentation under the statutory requirements and the USB related responsibility. Third, Panorama role as the approved statewide contractor working with LEA to meet those requirements. And then finally, we have a Q&A session. Just to clarify on the Q&A portion, we encourage you to type your question in the chat. We will address USBE related questions following Aaron and Tanya's portions today. Any question that is relating to Panorama, we will have that to the end of the presentation. And then before we start, if you could feel free to put in the chat who you are, your title, and where you, which LEAs you're coming from. We would love to know where you're coming from today. And with that, I'm pleased to invite Tanya Albanos, the Prevention Coordinator and one of the 2 USBE team leads on this project to begin. Following Tanya's presentation, you will hear from Aaron Broad, Data and Statistics Director at USBE, who is also our second USBE team lead on this project. So with that, I invite Tanya.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. We're super excited to have you join us today, and we're really excited to introduce this partnership with Panorama to you. We're going to start off by giving you some background on the statute and rules requirements for early warning systems so that you can understand how we got to where we are. So, thank you. So we're going to first talk about the statutory requirements for early warning systems. The statute is 53F-4-207. And this statute obviously gives the ability for the board to make rules that are in alignment with that section. And it directs the state board to go through a competitive process to select a vendor that meets the statutory requirements of the early warning system. So if you go to that statute, you'll see the different requirements for the system. And we're just going to do a broad overview of those today. So the system must enhance online data reporting tool and provide formative actionable data on student outcomes. What that means is the intent of the legislature is that the system that we contract with has to provide information so that you can take immediate action to help improve student outcomes. And we'll talk about what outcomes in just a minute. It also directed us to ensure that every LEA in the state receives access to the digital program that we choose through the contract, and that we manage appropriation and cost sharing, which we're going to talk about what that means a little bit later in this presentation. So you go to the next slide. So the further statutory requirements for the board is that we collect the following information from LEAs who utilize the platform within 1 year after each LEA enrolls in the statewide system. So this means that there will be reporting requirements from LEAs that utilize the system. We have to collect information on the effectiveness of the platform, positive and negative attributes, your recommendations for improvement, and any other information that the board wants us to collect from you or that we deem appropriate. And then our direction in from the legislation is that we consider those recommendations for changes to the EWS tool. So the good news is that it directs us to get your input and your recommendations and implement those as the contract goes along. Go to the next slide. The next part we wanted to talk about are what LEAs are directed to do in the statute. So LEAs are directed to set thresholds in the board rule that goes along with the statute. We did that on purpose because the actual statute directs USBE to make those thresholds. But in conversations with LEAs, we determined that each LEA knows best your own thresholds and what would be best. And so the board directed us to have LEAs set the thresholds and have the contractor provide some recommended thresholds that you can utilize as you're implementing the system. So you will have help in setting those thresholds for when you can intervene with a student and understanding when it's best practice and within your local resources and priorities to do so. It also directs LEAs in the rule to ensure that the early warning system effectively identifies students who are at risk of academic failure and provide timely and prompt intervention. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Another requirement is that each LEA must implement. So sorry, let me backtrack here. So the requirement in the statute is that each LEA must implement a digital program for student early intervention. This is what we're referring to as the early warning system. And there are two options for this. You can adopt the USBE statewide contractor for this, or in the statute, it also clearly gives LEAs the authority to select another vendor or system that meets the statutory requirements. So if you decide not to enter into the statewide contract with Panorama, then you'll need to explain to USBE or report to us what system you will be using. And we'll also be able to be available to you to help you understand if that system meets the statutory requirements. And then digital data platform requirements. Those requirements for a high-level overview is that it can integrate data from your student information system using student-level data. And the idea is that this is a nightly it's a nightly refresh, or it's an immediate refresh, so that you can understand the data and understand when a student needs interventions for academic success. So the data that the system has to include is student disciplinary incident data, including school safety violations. It has to have data regarding attendance, behavior, and academic achievement, which includes course failures, and any other criteria as determined by your local board. It does give the authority in the statute for LEAs to include additional data indicators, as you can see under that other criteria as determined by the local board. And essentially, you can go to your local boards and ask for permission to include other criteria, such as an optional student survey to determine how students are, the well-being issues or the skills issues of the students. It also requires that the early warning system presents data through a user-appropriate intuitive interface. So this is, the vision of this is that it's a dashboard. It's something that you can look at and see right away if the student needs intervention in any of these areas. It also identifies early warning indicators for students needing intervention and supports improved academic outcomes and reduced behavioral concerns. So this is the vision of an early warning system. And any system that meets these requirements would be something that an LEA could adopt. Is Aaron here? Boom. Or should I continue?
Aaron is online.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Bruff, who's our coordinator over data and statistics, to continue on with this presentation. And Aaron, go ahead and add anything that I might have missed.
You're good, and I apologize. It's legislative session, and I have to leave early, so I might be handing this over to someone else as we go along. So looking at the requirements, when you sign up or work with Panorama, you'll be connecting with, or you'll be integrating your SIS system directly with them. This is going to include, and it's listed on this, um, all disciplinary incidents. And when it says school safety violations, um, that is based on if there was an incident, not the actual school safety risk assessment. I just want to make sure that that's clear as we speak about that. Their attendance, behavior, which also kind of goes with that incident data, all their courses, and all their assessments go in there. And if your board wants other things loaded, you can work with Panorama to get that additional information set up. I don't know if there's any other questions, but basically, as you move into the system, it helps identify and alert students in needs of intervention, and it becomes the portal for you to do the MTSS management that you're working within your LEA within the schools. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide.
Hey, Aaron, can I ask a quick question on that last slide?
Absolutely.
This is Brian McGill from Canyon School District. On the user appropriate intuitive interface, does the rule require a student, parent, guardian, and educator log on? All three of those?
That's a great question.
I can answer that.
Go
The
ahead.
rule doesn't
Thanks, Brian.
require that, but the statute does require that we can share information with parents. It doesn't say that it requires them to have a login or an interface.
Okay, so like our
Yeah.
dashboard in our district that you're aware of that we use captures everything, and we have administrative wellness educator access, but we don't have a parent portal. But you're saying as long as that information is shared with parents in some way, then that meets the requirements.
Yes, as long as you can share it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, it's a great question. Yeah, because obviously when you're looking at your interface, or if we're looking at Panorama, when you're looking at it, it's an aggregate and you're able to then start drilling down very quickly. So it's that parents don't have rights to see the higher levels of information. But absolutely do we share upon request with the parent or the student, hey, this is what we're working on. So if there's an intervention plan, or if they want to see that whole record of what's going on right there, then that would be shareable. When I say shareable, but not necessarily that they can log in and see it. So good question. Hopefully that answers that. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, functionality provides teachers and school administrators ability to view the early warning indicators, ability to generate communication with parents. It empowers the educator to create, assign, and track intervention and support. So that one's kind of critical. Again, the components or the requirement behind this is how do we start tracking, and I'm just going to use the word, the MTSS, that multi-tiered system support. How do you go in there and have those in place and follow through and make sure that whatever that support is put in place, that you can track through it? This includes a curated library of evidence-based intervention strategies that can be utilized, and it provides the user the ability to share interventions, within reporting environment. It adds additional comments and informations that administrator, the parents, whoever it needs to put inside of there. So there's the functionality and sharing. We have been piloting this for 7 years, checking and proving, hey, does this work? Is this effective? And we've actually done a couple state studies to go back and verify that, yep, this process really does have an impact on the students, obviously, but also as the system as a whole, getting to those students who are in need, that they're not falling through the cracks. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, here's the fun one. Okay, cost sharing. The state covers half of the annual cost for participating LEAs. So there's basically two. If you just get the student success module, that's it, where you're only looking at academics, attendance, and behavior data. It's $3,500 for a school. Or if you want to add the additional survey module, it would be $4,000 per school. Payment process, the LEAs will be billed 100% by the vendor. What USBE will be doing is we will be collecting for every school what you are doing. And then we will automatically be putting funds for you into the grants management system each October for you to utilize and to cover your cost. Any questions on that? And we put down there the participating status is going to be tracked inside of Cactus. Yes, we are moving over to USIMS as well, so that will have that transition. But right now we'll be tracking that all in Cactus, and so we're in the process of going out and reaching out and making sure we know what every school is doing.
Eric, I want to just clarify here that the cost sharing and pricing only applies to the statewide contract. So USBE is only able to cover 50% of the cost for Panorama. If the LEA chooses a different system, then that cost sharing is not available.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
The pricing, the 3,500 or the 4,000, is that at 100% or is that the 50% that the school would come up with?
That is the 100% amount of its cost.
Okay, thank you.
So if you were doing the full module, it's 2,000 that the LEA would come up with. Or if it was just the basic or the standard, it's correct. That's the 1,750. And then I'm just looking at the chat, and yes, this is a yearly price. So the 4,000 or the 3,500, that is an entire year for the school.
And can you say again what the survey module is? That for like school climate survey, or what's that?
Great question. So the survey module inside of there is and then they'll show a demo in just a few minutes.
Panorama will be showing that survey module in just a few minutes.
That are based upon the questions or the constructs that you as an LEA decide that you want to use. And so it's built in with the system, and there's multiple functionalities and utilizations inside of there. Hopefully that go ahead.
Life skills.
Thank you. I forgot the word. Does that answer the question?
There's quite a few questions in the chat. The cost share will be ongoing. We do have an ongoing appropriation from the legislature for that to continue. So as long as we have those funds dedicated from the legislature, then yes, the cost sharing will be ongoing. It is the same price regardless of school size. So it's just that cost is just per school. And then let's see what else is on here. Yes, it's per school. And then the curated library of interventions. So USBE is working very closely with Panorama to make sure that the library of interventions is curated, that it matches with interventions that we provide on a state level, and that any other interventions, because Panorama is available nationwide, and so they already have a pretty robust library of interventions, which USBE staff will be vetting and curating to make sure that it meets the state requirements and standards. So yes, it will match with what USBE is already doing.
Yeah, thank you. And just sharing it was very important by the board that it was a Utah curated library that we go through. So very important things that were set up. Also, it was very important for the board that every LEA and basically, the system, when I say system, school LEA parents understood that there are optional components. That's why you see the two different price standards inside of there. A couple other questions. This is, if we choose a different system, 50% is not covered. That is correct. If you have a homegrown or you're picking someone else, the answer is you're correct there. We do not have, we only have the one contract, and based upon the legislation and how that was all set up, it's like the state will pay for half, LEAs can choose. But if you choose something different, you have to cover your own, but you have to have something. The next question is, when does this need to be in place? Oh, here's the fun one. Legislation actually says it had to be in place in 2025.
Right. But how we termed it is that every LEA needs to have a plan in place by next school year. So you don't necessarily have to have it implemented, although that would be optimal. But we ask that you at least have a plan for implementation of an early warning system by the beginning of the next school year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just sharing what will be happening is if you're saying we will have a plan in place, that's great. But if it's in the year later, we understand it. But you will be out of compliance with the state law. We're not going to come and do an audit or anything of that nature at the moment. But just be aware that it is exposed to the legislative ability to audit. And when we say who's not in compliant, we would have to say they're not in compliance. So going over what we'll be tracking inside of Cactus is one, you're using the state contract and you're using the optional survey module, or you're using the state contract and you're just doing the standard, or you're using your own and you will be telling us what you are using, or you'll be out of compliance. Those are the options that we'll be working with. So hopefully that answers the questions. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. And here's the survey. The survey's been out. We know that a number. Kuhn, you want to address this one?
Yes, I need to find out. I mean, just to share, so the survey to get baseline information to LEA been shared a couple weeks ago. We have 39 out of we anticipate about 160 returns. So we really need your help to complete this survey to get the baseline. So of those 39 who shared, we had 24 who are charters, 14 district, and one USDB answered those questions. Majority of you plan to use Panorama, so 24 out of 39. There are 8 of you who say unknown, yes, so that maybe considering with the local board and then to consider which platform you use. 5 of LEAs or charter school district have said that to use a local certified platform, and then 1 did not answer. So those are surveys we have so far. This is the QR code. If you haven't done so, please scan this and answer. We really do need information to get the baseline. And of the LEAs that say which system they are using right now, majority you have Aspire as the student information system. Some 9 of you use a Power School, other plan to use other Panorama, but others I clarify that this is platform you use, but it is not the SIS system that you're using. So we can talk about that offline if you are one of the one who answered this question. Skyward, Infinite Canvas, Xavier, and Canvas are the other student information system that you're using. So that will be conclusive a part of the survey result. But the bottom line here, please scan this and complete the survey. That's the message.
And there was a message saying, hey, can you resend it just in case? It was sent from to the LEA heads
Yes.
from Ryan, our PR director or communication director. So that was sent out. Here's an opportunity, just pull out your phones, take a picture of it. It's another option. If you need some other way for us to send it to us, please contact Kung and he will send it directly to you. Are you okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So
Let's go ahead. Next slide. And I think, again, for the group, I apologize. I have to run up to the hill now. So it is the season. Thank you.
Before you go, is there any other questions for Aaron or I before we turn it over to Panorama? All right. Thanks for that
Awesome.
well wish, Simon. That is well needed. So, okay, we're going to turn it over to Panorama, Nicole and Kaylee, so that they can give you an overview of the Panorama system.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you all so much for being here and giving us this opportunity. My name is Nicole. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Kaylee. It is our absolute pleasure and privilege to get to support our partnership in Utah. Kaylee and I have been working in Utah for a long time, supporting our pilot, and we're thrilled to be here with you today to give you a walkthrough of our approach to our early warning system, to talk a little bit about what Panorama support looks like. And we're actually going to get into a demo platform today and walk you through exactly what that looks like and talk about some next steps. Recognize that you may have some questions throughout the presentation. Feel free to put those in the chat. And Kaylee and I will reserve about 15 minutes at the end of this presentation and make sure that we get all of your questions answered. And if we can't answer today, we'll make sure to share our contact info so that we can talk live after this meeting. Kaylee, are you all set with your screen share? Looks like you are. Awesome. So just want to spend a moment talking about Panorama Education. We were founded about 13 years ago, and we've always been focused on the notion that school would be better if we understood every student's story and needs. Flash forward to now in 2026, we are so proud to serve over 1 in 4 students across the United States. We are in all 50 states. We have deep expertise doing this work nationally, as Tanya referenced, but I want to talk more specifically about how we've tailored our efforts in Utah, specifically over the past 7 years. We are absolutely thrilled to celebrate 7 years of partnership between USBE, Panorama, and the LEAs that have opted in to work with us over the past 7 years. We've integrated and implemented our early warning system in over 350 LEAs across the state. That's a mix of large districts, rural districts, charters. I see Weber on the line. I see Uinta on the line. If I'm missing you, call me out in the chat, but I see some friends on the line, which is awesome. We're now prepared to support every LEA across the state, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can get started with us after our demonstration. Our early warning system at baseline does 3 things. 1, it aggregates disparate data sources. So those are different data sources across like your SIS or other various assessment systems that you use, and we can talk about that a little bit more in a moment. We help educators to identify student needs, and we support with taking coordinated actions across schools, across the district. All of this is backed by Panorama's best-in-class embedded implementation support and rigorous data security and privacy standards. When we start a new partnership with an LEA, the first thing that we do is we integrate their data. We bring together various data points that typically tend to live in silos across different platforms, logins, spreadsheets, etc. We know that there are a variety of different data systems that get used across the state of Utah, and we support over 120 different SIS, LMS, and assessment systems. So LEAs in Utah can have all of their data in one place. The Panorama team is with each LEA every step of the way. We really want to make that integration process smooth and efficient. And like I mentioned, we've successfully integrated over 350 schools across the state at this point. Our platform includes key cut points or thresholds. Tanya mentioned these at the beginning of the presentation. These are backed by best practices of early warning research, so educators can easily see which students are on or off track across key indicators. Those thresholds have always been customizable in Utah, though I will say I haven't seen too many LEAs actually deviate from our standard cut points. They represent widely accepted national norms of performance. So, for example, defining chronic absenteeism as missing more than 10% of school days, that's one that, again, we typically don't see a lot of deviation from. And lastly, we believe that the best early warning systems help educators to both identify interventions and help at-risk students get back on track via coordinated action. Most, if not all, of the LEAs that we work with across the state at this point have incorporated our early warning system into a tiered system of support. So with everyone logging those student supports and interventions all in Panorama, it unlocks some amazing possibilities, including increased collaboration, data following students, and fully unified reporting. That looks like a school where all educators know what supports are being carried out by others to support a struggling student. It means that all intervention plans automatically follow students, and that all educators have a clear view into the practices that are being tried to figure out what's working best and what isn't for those students. Kaylee, I noticed you came off mute.
Oh, no, keep going.
Oh,
You're good.
sorry. As part of our support process, we get to know each LEA's system, their tiered support system really well, so that we can help connect the data to existing practices to support change management and effective usage. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Kaylee, who's going to walk us through both what our support looks like and also do a demo of the platform.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Nicole. So excited to be here. My name's Kaylee. I'm a local here in Salt Lake City. I was a teacher in the Jordan School District for about 7 years and a user of Panorama before I transitioned here. So excited to support our local schools. Nicole talked a little bit already about our data integration capabilities. I noticed there were some one-off asks in the chat. As you do reach out to Panorama to explore it more, we'll be able to go over all of the different systems that we integrate with, and also a lot of customizable integrations that we can support. So even if you see something here on the screen or you see something missing from the screen, know that can still be something that we support through some atypical integrations. But the big overlay here is that within the system, we'll have a nightly integration with your student information system so that behavior, academic, and attendance will all be up to date every time your educators log in, and then we'll bring in those important assessment tools. Outside of that integration support, we also will have a really deep level of support through each LEA. That means that you'll have team members living locally, but then you'll also have a specific account director, a project manager, and a professional learning director that will help to address your specific needs, talk about goals, usage, and really help to deepen the usage. And really, outside of being compliant with an early warning system, we really want to impact students positively. And so really the Panorama team is going to help to support that, especially knowing change management can be a challenge. We're really excited with our partnership with the USBE, that it's not just like a 1 year-to-year partnership. We're going to be partnering with the USBE for 5 years. So we wanted to show this because we know that rolling out a new system can't happen just like overnight with everything happening all at once. So year over year, we'll support with implementation, but then the next year we'll really be able to set more annual priorities and focus. The next year, we'll be able to expand usage across the district and help with really tailored training year over year. Okay, the exciting part, which is the demonstration. Thumbs up really quick that you can see my screen now that I switched tabs. Thanks, Nicole. All right, so I'm going to give you a really quick overview of some of the typical views that you'll see in Panorama. And then we'll go into a use case, imagining that I am an MTSS team in my school. So this first view is an overview for the entire district. The view here will look the same for a principal or a teacher, but they'll only have the data that they're rostered to, essentially. So your principals will be able to see this overview of academics, attendance, and behavior, but again, just for their school, teachers will only see their students. Here you'll be able to see a lot of our easy to access reports here, as well as any of the interventions being utilized or survey usage, if that is something that your LEA wants to opt into. At the district overview page, you'll again be able to see all of your school sites. You'll be able to view based on important demographic information here on the left. With just a single click, you'll be able to see your groups like ELL students. If we wanted to look at our students based on 504 status, we'll be able to quickly view and sort based on demographics, again, that are being pulled in from your student information system or can be customized. Once we enter into a school site, I'm here at Lincoln Middle School. This is where you'll see those cut points that Nicole was just voicing over, where you'll be able to set based on your LEA or go off of the state or Panorama's recommendations, what constitutes your students that are considered excelling, on track, at risk, or critical based on all of the criteria that you see above. Lastly, you'll be able to look at a student profile page. This is where all of that relevant data is going to live for a single student. When I was a teacher, I found it very frustrating that if I wanted a good understanding as a former ELA teacher for how a student's doing with reading or writing, I would have to go into my student information system to see my academics. But then I'd have to go into iReady to understand those scores. I'd have to go into RISE to understand those scores. Sometimes we're pulling all of those things into a spreadsheet, which is a really manual effort for your teachers. But here we'll be able to see that that is, again, automatically brought into the tool. So iReady is an example here in RISE, though other assessments would be able to be seen as well. We'll also see a really easy to understand view of attendance, where we have a recent percentage out of the last 20 days. We'll be able to see trends across the calendar of as the student's missing school. Behavior will be pulled in again. Just noting here, I do have an administrative view, so this will look a little bit different depending on if you're a teacher. And then our optional survey skills can be shown here as well. Also want to know any of the current plans being utilized for students. So as we do target a student and give them an intervention plan to help with that tiered support, you'll be able to see that living here. So at any time, anyone that's rostered to the student will know what we're doing to help and support the student. This is an example of a check-in, check-out. So automatically graphs will be created based on the data going in, where we'll be able to see that progress over time. These plans will also be able to, with just one click, be shared with your families. So everyone will really be on the same page with how we're supporting our students, and that can be easily sent over to our parents. Okay, let's pivot back over and imagine that I'm a school principal leading our tiered supports team as we're looking to target students for support. Here back at Lincoln Middle School, we're going to meet together, and our big priority at Lincoln Middle School is attendance. That's going to be our focus. It's going to be our entry point as a point of practice for the team. With one click, I was able to see my most critical students for attendance. Also, as we're thinking of an early warning system, we also have trending data. So rather than just focusing on more of that critical lens, we also could look at who's currently declining. And this can be true for academics and behavior as well. So we're really able to catch those students before they drop in and monitor those. But for our meeting purpose here, we're going to focus in on the critical students. And then we're also going to look at those students that are at risk for academic needs. So that's actually going to really narrow the scope for a student of concern that us as a team, we would like to explore further. So we're going to click into that student profile, knowing that attendance is a real concern. I'm going to quickly be able to see the supports that are currently happening. And we're going to imagine that there is no attendance plan because I should have cleared those out. So we're going to imagine that we're missing that for the student. And so we're going to go ahead as a group and create an attendance plan to utilize with the student. So for UN, we're going to go ahead and select that for tier 2. We can do engagement, tardiness. We'll state a goal, any pre-intervention reflection here. So what's the ELA teacher's experience with the student? What has our school counselor noticed with the student? We'll all be there being able to enter in that data for relevance. This is where that library of targeted interventions that's going to be in line with USBE recommendations will live. In our playbook, we have 1,000 interventions readily available for LEAs, but that will be trimmed down depending on what's relevant for Utah schools. You'd also be able to upload your district library. So out of those 45 district utilized interventions, it looks like only 3 are a good fit based on it being attendance and the developmental stage of the student. So we can decide as a group which one would be best here. We're going to go with that attendance incentive plan. And we're going to set our duration, any references here, and then someone's going to go ahead and be the champion for that. I'm the school counselor in the scenario here. We've decided that I can support this intervention going further. We're all then receive notifications of how often I should be meeting with the student based on what we decide. And if the student's absent or falling behind for any reason, I'll receive those notifications as well. So after we create our plans, as a school principal, I'm going to go back into my dashboard here because I'm going to start to ask myself, so we've been using these interventions, designing these interventions, but are they effective and where do my teachers need more support? So here I'm going to go into my intervention dashboard. Here at Lincoln Middle School, I'm going to be able to see all of the plans that are up to date, on track, and how many of my plans have reached their stated goals. Right now we have great stats here for the plans and how effective they are. But I also want to understand all of the plans that are being utilized and specifically the strategies that are being utilized. We invest a lot of time and effort with training for various programs and supports, and we want to be able to know how effective that is, especially when funding is such a concern for schools and districts. When we look here, we can see all of the interventions for the different content area. I'm just going to look at these ELA Tier 2 as an example here. When we're looking at this breakdown, we can see how many of our Tier 2 strategies are trending towards on track when we're working with students. So with close reading, I can see that that is showing more effective results versus our repeated readings. So now we can start to meet with our ELA interventionists, our reading specialists as the principal to understand that any of those disparities and if we need to reassign some priority. I'm also going to be able to go in and view all of the plans that are active in this school. And again, see how many of those plans are up to date and if there needs to be any additional layer of support here. So as this loads, and again, because I am the principal, I'm going to be looking at all of the plans that I can view. And then I'm going to be able to see really quickly who is past completion. I can view this here really quickly through these filters, or I can see who's tracking behind or off track. And again, then I'll be able to see exactly which students are tracking behind, check in with the champion of this intervention, and provide additional support. Lastly, as a principal, not only am I checking in on those interventions, but I also, again, knowing that our absenteeism is a really big focus, I know that I need to actually report related to absenteeism to my superintendent in our next admin meeting. Really quickly, I'm able to hop into one of our dashboards with Panorama and see our absenteeism rate, quickly view those students, view our students that are chronically absent and are actually missing a report, see any of the averages, seeing that we're actually improving on the month. And then as you have historic data, you'd be able to see that change over time. And again, on the left-hand side, being able to filter with any of these important demographic information if we need to focus in on specific grade levels that are struggling and how that compares to our larger group. The last thing here that I meant to cover, and as I was talking, realized that I kind of missed, which I bet a lot of you were wondering. I do want to call out a better view or another view of looking at that math and ELA support at the school level. I showed you how that could be brought into the student profile, but I also want to show it here on the ELA view. So here I'll be able to again see my coursework, which also can be mapped towards standards-based grading versus these traditional letter-based grading. And I can again correlate those students that might be off track based on their last benchmark, but on track based on their coursework, where traditionally these students might be slipping through the cracks, or this is also telling us a lot about the way we're grading students and what our content looks like versus what our assessments or our benchmarks could look like. Okay, I did want to leave us 15 minutes, so I'm going to pop out of the demo here. And then I did just want to voice over if you're interested to learn more what that process will be, and then we'll get into an opportunity for Q&A. So here is a QR code as well as a link that will drop in the chat. These will both take you to the page that you see on the right, where you'll be able to enter in your email address, and that will send us the request that you'd like to see more information from Panorama, where we'll then be able to get together with you, show a more in-depth demo tied to specific priorities that you have or questions you have, really be able to go through some of those integrations that we might not have discussed. Every version of Panorama is going to be a little different because all of the LEAs in Utah are just a little different. And so we really will give you a customized approach to support here. In terms of the timing, and we appreciate that USBE brought up some of the timing as well. We want to look at this in kind of a cohort model. Now, you really can sign up for Panorama at any time, but if we are to enter into an agreement and finalize something in March with our integration period, that means the platform would be live in May. So if you did want to be up and running by back to school of next year, we really would recommend that we have something finalized before July. Now, a lot of our partners actually really like this cohort 1 timeline because I'm sure you're all very aware of the chaos of back to school with a lot of different trainings and a lot of things being rolled out. If we're able to get things integrated before end of school this year, it really allows us to start some of that training with your early adopters before they leave for the summer so that they can really get a level of proficiency in the platform. So we're thinking about our school principals and our school counselors and district leaders that really are going to be those first folks in the tool and not pushing that off until the fall. And then one more thing that you can scan a QR code to sign up for. We will be hosting some in-person meetups throughout the year. Our first meetup is going to be here at the Wasatch Front in Salt Lake City at the Granite School District building. And that'll be May 3rd, so coming up here in just about 2 weeks. When we get together, we'll offer a networking opportunity. You'll get to hear from some of our partner districts that have implemented Panorama. We'll collaborate on best practices or barriers around implementing a new system, and we'll feed you. So, contact information here. This will all be again posted to USBE's website as well as Panorama's website, but these will be your main points of contact on the Panorama side of things. And again, always going to our website will help you also sign up for more information. And lastly, your USBE contacts can also be a great resource, and they'll help to connect you to us or answer more questions about the early warning system as a whole. And that brings us to our Q&A.
So right now we are opening it up for questions from you all, and we're happy to answer questions. Panorama's here to answer questions regarding interface or anything regarding the demo that she just showed you. And we are here to answer policy questions and implementation questions. And for those of you who have asked, this presentation, we are recording it and we will be posting it on the prevention website on the early warning system page, so that you can share this recording with others who might not have been able to make it today. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Hey, Kaylee, this is Brian and Candace. Quick question. Can
Yes,
you go
Brian.
back a couple of slides? I just want to snag the Utah outreach rep contact.
Yes, sir. Boop, boop, boop. Sorry, this one right here. I did drop this this link here that will automatically get someone to reach out to you. But then there's also, I'll be your main,
Yeah, that one
your
right there.
main contact here.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, there are a couple questions for Panorama. Does it interface with Elevation? And also, can you drop the link for the March 3rd form?
Yeah, perfect. Just dropped that March 3rd form. With Elevation, I don't believe that there's currently a direct integration there, but we can pull like subsets of data from a lot of different tools. So that can be another one that if you are more curious, when I understand more about what you want to see in the platform, then I can see what kind of customization we can do.
And then there was a question from Ashton. Will student data automatically follow students when transferring, or will it still need to be requested So this question is really, it depends. So it depends on if the LEA, if the student is going to a different LEA and that LEA is part of the Panorama contract, the information would follow the student and would, if the student returns, would also follow the student. But that's really dependent on if the LEA is a, has opted into the contract with Panorama. If it is, yes, it will follow. Also, if the student is transferring to another school within the LEA and the LEA is in Panorama, that data will also transfer to the new school. So you won't automatically. So you wouldn't have to do anything to transfer that data.
And something else that's really powerful is the ability of the intervention history to live with a student. So I could see as an 8th grade English teacher which interventions were effective in 7th grade, because we'll have that view as the student stays with our school or moves to a different school in the district.
Yeah, and there's some conversation in the chat for those of you who might not be able to see it, about if it integrates with Aspire. And I will say we have done a lot of work at the state level to integrate Panorama with Aspire. So the answer to that question is yes.
I'd say where we're most, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tanya.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say where we're most confident about integrations is definitely with student information systems. It's kind of the bread and butter. That's like what really is consistent. We do a lot of work to ensure that that's effective.
So Renee asks, can a charter get a transfer from someone in Panorama from another LEA? And I'm assuming the question is if your charter is a part of the contract and the student has been in an LEA that is a part of the contract. The answer is yes, you can get that information. It will transfer with the student if both LEAs are a part of the contract.
Yeah, Panorama kids will follow to Panorama schools. Though also all of the data that you saw, like in the student profile, can be exported and shown and shared in a hard copy kind of way, which I think is still more helpful than a lot of the ways that I know I received data from other districts as a teacher.
Okay.
I think we just have one more slide here to share your feedback with us. Kuhn, I'll go ahead and share that for the folks. But then we'll stay, at least Panorama will stay on for a moment so that if anyone has a question that pops up or wants to even come off mute at this point to ask something, you're welcome.
Yeah, so just for this one, if you could scan this QR code and give us feedback in terms of professional learning here at USBE. And when you go in, please select just Tanya Albanos. There are a lot of trainers in there. Just select Tanya, and we would be able to receive that feedback from you today. Just to kind of on the Qualtrics survey, the baseline information, there are 2 portions you answer. One, who filled out the application, fill out the survey, and then where is a point of contact. We would use that as a main contact from us to you on trainings, information sharing to early warning systems. So it's critical important if you could do that so that we is a training like the information here. If there's immediate information or legislative change that we have update, we can share directly to our point of contact at the LEA level as it related to early warning system. So the survey is critical important. Please register for our March 3rd training. And then as schedule come up and we solidify and determine the location and the exact date of other location throughout the state, we will post it on USB early warning system website or that on Panorama. So, and then send it out as a point of contact information update to you all, so you will receive those information as it come in. With that, Tanya, do you have anything else which you would like to add?
Yeah, folks are asking if you can drop the link into the chat since many of them don't have phones in schools. Thank you for that feedback. It's good to remember that for us.
Okay. Getting the link on the, yes, got it. Getting it right now. Okay, with that, sorry, let me see the chat come up. And here is the link to the Quadric survey for the feedback. Okay, with that, we will end the conversation. I will end the recording. I will open the